2 years. That's how long it took me just to start to figure out what the heck it was I was trying to actually accomplish. And I sat down this month with over 50 people on one-on-ones to try and help them figure that stuff out way quicker than I did. But my head would explode if I tried to do that many one-on-ones or nearly that many one-on-ones ever again. So I'm going to make this video for you guys today to talk about 3 of the most common themes that I saw in almost every single one of those sit downs so that you can apply them to your own situation, your own position, look at what those people were struggling with and the things that I did to try and help them push forward and overcome so that you can do the same thing. So the first thing that we talked about more than anything was a simple lack of direction. If you do not have direction in where you are going, it is going to be incredibly difficult to know what you should be doing and especially to actually enjoy what you're doing because direction is everything, right? If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, what are you even doing? And I want to ask that question right now. Like, as you're sitting here watching this video, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you know me because of my lending, my other businesses, real estate in general, maybe the mentorship that we're in? I don't know how you know me, but whatever it is, whatever your reason is for watching this video, I want you to really take a second to think about that because a lack of direction is everything. And the first question that I ask people is, why are you doing what you're doing? So whether you're wholesaling, lending, you've got some other business, there's a million different things you could be doing. Buying rentals, why? Why are you doing that thing? Like, honestly, why are you doing it? What is the reason? Barely anybody has a good reason. That's just my honest feedback from these 50 sit downs, right? Barely anybody has a good reason. Usually the reason is like, well, I saw my friend doing it, or it seemed like a good way to make money, or here's a freaking killer one. It seemed easy, right? Side note, nothing is easy, please. And if it is easy, it's not going to be worth doing. But I thought it might be easy. These are the reasons that people have responded to me directly saying that is why they're doing what they're doing. That might get you a little bit, but it is not going to get you far, right? Other reasons might be, well, because other people told me not to, or told me that I couldn't, right? Again, maybe that'll get you a little bit, but it's not going to get you that far. So why are you actually doing what you're doing? Is there a reason behind what you're doing? Because just because I lend money, just because I do things, just because your friend does things, does not mean that that's going to work the same for you. It doesn't, because you guys are in completely different situations. And so looking at my situation, like if you know me, you know, I don't have kids, I don't have pets, I have almost no other responsibilities. So yeah, my time allotment and the things that I do look a lot different than a lot of people. And that's okay. But you can't then try and copy exactly what I'm doing and expect it to be the same result, right? That just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not the same thing. And so why are you doing what you're doing? Is this vision yours, or are you trying to live out somebody else's vision, right? That might be with entrepreneurship. It might be with your job, with going to college, with doing a specific, profession or field. Is that actually your dream and your vision, or has somebody just implanted that on you? And that's a deep one for me and for a lot of the people I talk to, because I don't think a lot of you even know. Like, I think you're sitting here right now telling yourself that you're doing something for you, and it's just not true. So you have to really take the time to consider, how did I get here? What are my desires? What are my motivations? If you are going after something that you don't actually desire doing, here's how I like to look at it. There's really 2 main separations that I have started to realize, especially over the last couple months, especially through these one-on-ones, that I want to push on you guys. And that's the difference between playing defense and playing offense. I could go deep into my story of how I think defense has turned to offense for me, but I want to just break this down for you, because when we talk about a lack of direction, I think one of the main issues is that people want to jump on offense so quickly, but you can't play good offense without defense, right? If you're a football person, defense wins championships. So when you are jumping into just how can I make money easily, how can I make money the quickest, things like that, the downfall of these things, the downsides, is that if you jump into things too quickly, maybe you will make 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. But if those things aren't sustainable, then you're just playing offense with no defense on the back end. And so understanding where you're going is building a foundation to where you'll have the defense, right? And when I say defense, that's things like maybe it's cash reserves. Maybe it's keeping your W-2 job. Maybe it's lowering your expenses, living way cheaper than you can actually afford to live. These are the defensive mechanisms that allow you to go play offense. And you've probably heard me talk about things like with my lending, where I'm going out and I'm potentially doing some riskier deals, right? I might spend some more money than most people would have. Why? Because I can, because it fits into what I'm doing. And it's just something that I can afford to do because of the defense that I've set up ahead of time. So which way are you doing that stuff? And that's my first question to you guys is just, do you have true direction in what you're doing? If you don't, then I encourage you to stop what you're doing and find that first, because you're just wasting your time. You are wasting your time if you don't have direction. Now, some people might be hearing that and thinking like, well, I don't have perfect direction, but I have an idea. Shoot, I don't have perfect direction. Like, I don't know what I'm doing every single day. I don't know exactly where I'm headed, but I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Right now, just to give you an example, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is twofold. One is to make money now, right? So that I can free up more time. And two, one of the reasons why I've been kind of dabbling in all of these different businesses, different ideas with different partners is so that I can learn and make mistakes quicker, so that I can learn from those mistakes and learn what kind of business do I want to build in the long run? What do I want my life to look 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And if I don't go and make some of these mistakes and try things out, then I'm going to think or be convinced that something might be better than it is, and something might make more sense for me than it actually does, just based off of what I see other people doing. So that was the first kicker, was a lack of direction. If you are in that boat, go find your direction first, or find somebody that can at least help guide you in the right way, and go start making those mistakes. But don't just keep doing something just to do it. If it doesn't fit in with you personally, screw everybody else. If it doesn't fit in with you personally, then it's not going to make sense. So jump off of that. Now, once you have your direction, the next issue that I found with this one was universal, straight up, a lack of focus. The second thing was a lack of focus. And that lack of focus heavily stems from the first step here, which is that lack of direction. Because do you know how hard it is to focus and do things early in the morning, late at night, on your breaks, when you're tired, if you don't have a true understanding of why the heck you're doing it? Like, I wouldn't focus on that stuff either. What would make you focus on that? There's nothing that's going to make you focus on that, because it's not what you want to be doing, or you don't even know why it is that you're doing those things. So a lack of focus, number one, stems from that lack of direction. Once you have direction, that lack of focus stems from a lack of desire. So if you're doing wholesale just because you think it's interesting, if you're doing lending just because you saw me doing it, if you're trying to buy rentals just because you read some book or listened to a podcast, but you don't have a reason why you're doing those things, then a lack of focus is going to be an obvious thing that's going to come up, because there's no motivation behind it, right? If you were down to your last dollar and you were starving and you couldn't afford to eat today, somewhat extreme, but if that was the case, do you think that you would have the focus to go do whatever the heck it took to survive another day, to go make enough money or find food or whatever it is to survive? Yes, obviously you would. But if you're comfortable in your life right now and you don't want to get uncomfortable, you're happy in your comfort, then that lack of effort is going to be a direct proponent, a direct result of that. So the question here for people that I was posing in these one-on-ones was just, what do you think is contributing to your lack of focus? Now, here was one of the main ones that's going to hit home for almost all of you guys. Hit home for me, and it definitely hit home for the people I talk to. A lot of people's lack of focus is because you're splitting your time. You think, but you're not actually splitting your time. What do I mean by that? For example, we have people right now that are trying to learn how to lend from me and are also running a wholesale business. So what they're telling me on our meetings, because I would do time audits, right? What does your time look like? Just literally give me your whole day, waking up to going to bed. What does your day look like? How are you splitting? And what I heard from people was, well, in the morning, I do all my reach outs for my wholesale. I send out offers, send messages, whatever. And then in the afternoon, I just do all lending. I do outreach and phone calls and networking and all this stuff. So I do half and half. Awesome. There's so many things I can say here. But I'll just talk about what I talked about on these meetings, right? So first of all, with splitting your time, why do I say you're not actually splitting your time? Well, has anybody here ever wholesale before? Do you just get to turn it off at 12 o'clock? No, not even close. You do your outreach for a little bit, and then in the afternoon, you get random phone calls. You get disgruntled title companies and sellers and buyers and whatever else you're trying to deal with. That stuff happens at all times of the day. You get ideas, you're thinking about it, right? That's something that's like not even quantifiable. Like if you've wholesaling is stressful. And if you piss people off or you get frustrated or you don't make the money that you need to survive, then guess what? You're not turning that off at noon. You're thinking about that for the rest of the day. You're getting phone calls. You're being distracted. You're thinking about systems. You're responding to emails. There is no turning that off, right? Now, the same thing goes with lending. And if you don't do wholesaling and lending, it makes no dang difference what you're doing. The same thing goes for anything. So they were then saying that they go in the second half of the day and go do this other thing, right? And try and build out those systems. Network with different people, different courses, different YouTube videos, whatever it may be. And they said, yeah, I'm splitting my time 50-50. It's very clear, I think, as I'm speaking here, that time's not actually being split 50-50 because that time is being robbed. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? As people say. You're just robbing time here. And what you end up doing is instead of splitting your time 50-50, and let's say if you work, a 10-hour day, 5 hours of this, 5 hours of this, it's more like maybe 2 or 3 hours of each, and then the rest is just a wasted jumble in your brain of trying to accomplish too much at once and not actually doing one thing. So that's the first problem. The second question that I asked that I think hurt some people, but was still accurate and helpful, which is why I'm going to bring it up, is why are you doing those two things? Why? And that goes back to number one, right, with a lack of direction. So if you're trying to make money in multiple different ways, my question to you is, why are you doing it? And I think I might have an idea. It's because you think that the probability of making money is higher if you try multiple things, right? That's what I heard. That is the response I heard across the board. The more things I do, the more opportunities I have to make money. And let me add in, I do not disagree in a sense. It is true. If you do multiple things, you might have a chance at breaking through on one or the other based on luck, based on other things you've learned, based on people you meet, whatever it may be. But is your goal to make $1,000? And that's an honest question. Is your goal to make $1,000, $5,000, $10,000? Or is your goal to replace your income and change your life? Because if your goal is that you need to put food on the table, then you better do whatever the heck it takes to put food on the table. If you need to try 2 different things or 10 different things, I do not care. But when you get past the point where you are in survival mode and you're just making money to survive and you're actually trying to build wealth, build consistency, build a life that you can enjoy, a life that you've always dreamed of, which is 100% possible. If you're trying to do that, then you need to go away from this concept of let me just do everything and make a little bit of money, and you have to zone in on one thing that you can do really freaking well and make a ton of money on. So it's just 2 completely different concepts, and that lack of consistency stems from a misunderstanding of why you're doing what you're doing. And if you can establish that first, then you're going to be able to jump to this next step of, am I making money right now out of desperation, or not even desperation, but just out of need, right? I need to make money to pay the bills, to pay my rent, to pay for food. Are you still in a phase, right? I would call that like phase maybe 1 of entrepreneurship is like survival mode, right? Are you making the money just to try and survive? Or have you gotten to the point now where you're actually trying to make money to build wealth, to build a business, to build something that you've always dreamed of? If you can establish that and determine that, then that's going to help you focus, because you may need to focus on a bunch of little things just to make enough money to get by. But you also need to recognize as you're doing that you're not building a sustainable business, you're not building a sustainable product, and you're not building a sustainable life. So just recognize which phase you're in there, where phase 1 is just making money and phase 2 is actually going above and beyond that. So that's the second thing that came up. And the third one, another killer. These are all just, across the board. And you guys will relate to this too. The third one's a lack of consistency. I talk about it all the time. I've got a newsletter that goes out every week, the consistency code. It's probably linked down there somewhere if you want to jump in there. But I'm obsessed with consistency because you guys want to know how many people send me messages and questions. How do you do what you do? How's this happened? How did this happen so fast? Right? The classic question. It's consistency. It's not what you're doing. It's how you're doing it. And if you are honestly consistent at anything, I don't care if you're selling lemonade on the side of the road. If you sold lemonade on the side of the road every day for 5 years, and every day, not only were you consistent in doing that, but you were consistent in making the necessary changes. Build a bigger stand, you build a bigger sign, you start advertising, you make more lemonade. I don't care what it is. Whatever it is you're doing, if you're consistent in doing it, you will be successful. That's a fact. That is a fact of how this stuff works. If you do not quit, you cannot fail. And so if there's a lack of consistency, it's because of a couple things. First of all, quit setting unrealistic goals, right? If you set a goal to make $100,000 and you make $1,000, you feel so far away from your goal that it's not even feeling like you're anywhere near what you're trying to accomplish. And that kills your consistency because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there. What if instead, if you flip that switch and your goal, let's say for a lot of you guys right now, your goal is not even monetary. It's just to make $1. It's to make any money. And then after that, it's to make that same amount of money the next month. And then it's to learn from those things. You see how I'm breaking those goals down into smaller things so that you actually are building off of it and not just feeling like, oh, well, my ultimate goal is to quit my job and make $100,000 a month. And right now I'm still stuck in my job and I hate it and I'm not making any money. That's not going to do it for you. So to build up that consistency, one of the things that I push for people is to quit setting unrealistic goals and build a business around the life that you want to be living. But do it slowly or do it at a pace that makes sense for you, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to do it in the long run. So focusing on that is a killer. The next one is actually having a vision to plan for the future, but the presence to adapt right now, right? So this kind of goes back to the previous point. If you are working on things that don't fit in with your future, then you have to understand why you are actually doing them. And if they fit in with your current situation, then keep pushing and build that consistency. And the biggest one with consistency that I want to close with is getting around others that are doing the same things. It's just, I can't overstate the importance of this. Like, I feel like people hear this. I don't know how I can drive this home better than anybody else. I feel like people hear this and it just goes in one ear and out the other ear. But if you are not around people that are doing what you're trying to do, you are going to be in for an incredibly difficult and lonely path forward. Does it make it impossible? Heck no. It just depends on you as the person. But no matter who you are, no matter what motivates you, if you don't see other people that are doing better than you, if you don't see people that are doing things consistently like you want to be doing them, then the only motivator you're going to have is yourself. And even though that might work most of the time, a lot of the time, some of the time, it's not going to work all the time. It's just not how it works. We're human, right? But if you have, for example, if you have a roommate that goes to the gym every single morning and you don't go to the gym every single morning, don't you think it's pretty powerful and helpful that they're sitting there going to the gym every single morning and can motivate you to do the same thing because they're already doing it, right? That consistency, that model of consistency is already there for you to see. So when you have those models of consistency and throwing it back, you have direction and focus, then the consistency as a result is going to build those habits to where you know why you're doing what you're doing. You're clear on what you should be doing. And now you're just doing the thing repeatedly. You're just doing the thing. That's all it is at the end of the day, is finding that consistency. So those are 3 things that came up in those meetings that I think you also can take a look at your own life, your own self, and figure out what the heck you need to be doing so that you can get more clear on your goals. Because once you nail these 3 things down, then you don't even have to sit here and watch these videos. You don't have to motivate yourself anymore because you have a clear path forward. So go find that clear path.